I watched the footage 3 times before my hands started shaking. A woman who looked exactly like me walked into my house holding my husband's hand, but I was at work. I've been at work all day. Who is she? My name is Rachel Torres, and I'm a dental hygienist in Phoenix. I thought I had a normal life, a loving husband, a quiet routine. I was wrong about everything. The video that changed everything. I sat in the break room at Dr. Patterson's dental office, unwrapping my turkey sandwich with one hand while scrolling through my phone with the other. It was just another Tuesday, the kind of day where nothing special happens. The morning had been busy, 3 cleanings, 1 difficult patient who kept gagging, and a kid who wouldn't stop crying. My feet hurt, and I was looking forward to going home. That's when I decided to check my Ring camera app, something I did almost every day during lunch. It was a habit I'd picked up after we installed the system 6 months ago. I liked seeing the mail carrier drop off packages, or sometimes our neighbor's cat walking across our porch. It made me feel connected to home while I was stuck at work. I took a bite of my sandwich and opened the app. The screen loaded, showing me the live feed from our front door, but then I scrolled back to earlier in the day, around 11 in the morning. That's when my world stopped making sense. A woman walked up to our front door. She was wearing my favorite blue cardigan, the one with the little buttons I'd bought last spring. Her dark hair fell just past her shoulders, exactly like mine. She had the same build, the same way of walking. My husband Mark was right beside her, his hand on the small of her back in that familiar, intimate way he always touched me. But it couldn't be me. I'd been at work since 7:30 that morning. I watched them unlock the door and walk inside together, laughing about something. Mark's face looked happy, relaxed. The same face that had kissed me goodbye that morning before I left for work. My sandwich fell onto the table. I didn't notice the turkey sliding out onto the paper towel. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. I replayed the video, then I replayed it again and again, 5 times total, each time hoping I'd see something different, some explanation that would make sense. But there was no mistake. That woman had my face, my hair, my clothes. She walked into my house like she belonged there, and my husband welcomed her like she was me. My coffee grew cold in my hand, forgotten. The break room felt too small, too bright. I could hear my coworkers laughing in the hallway, talking about their weekend plans, completely unaware that my entire reality was crumbling. I tried calling Mark. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. "Hey, it's Mark. Leave a message." His cheerful voice made me want to scream. I hung up and tried again. No answer. I tried a 3rd time, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Still nothing. Who was that woman, and why wasn't Mark answering his phone? The search for answers couldn't focus on anything after that. My 2 o'clock appointment was a regular patient, Mrs. Chen, who always wanted to chat about her grandchildren. I nodded and smiled while cleaning her teeth, but I had no idea what she was saying. My mind kept replaying that video over and over. The woman in my cardigan, Mark's hand on her back, the easy way they walked into my house together. At 2:30, I told Dr. Patterson I wasn't feeling well. It wasn't a lie. My stomach was churning, and I felt like I might throw up at any moment. He took one look at my face and told me to go home, no questions asked. I grabbed my purse and practically ran to my car. The drive home took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind raced with impossible explanations. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe Mark was planning some kind of surprise and hired an actress. Maybe I was losing my mind and imagining things. But I knew what I'd seen. That woman looked exactly like me. I pulled into our driveway at 3 o'clock. Mark's truck was gone. The house looked normal from the outside. Our little beige ranch house with the red front door, the small garden I'd planted last month, the welcome mat that said "Home Sweet Home." Everything looked exactly the way it should, but nothing was the same. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was empty and quiet, but something felt wrong. The air smelled different. There was a perfume lingering in the hallway, sweet and floral. I never wore perfume because the strong scents at the dental office bothered me all day. The smell was everywhere. I walked through the living room looking for signs of her. The couch cushions were slightly disturbed. There were 2 coffee mugs in the kitchen sink, both still slightly warm. Mark and I had only used 1 mug this morning, his usual black coffee before work. My heart pounded as I walked down the hallway to our bedroom. The door was open, and I stepped inside slowly, like I was entering a stranger's house. The bed was made, but not the way I made it. The pillows were arranged differently. I went into the bathroom. That's when I saw them, Strands of hair in the sink, long and dark like mine, but not quite the same shade. Mine was a deep brown, almost black. These hairs were lighter, more of a chestnut color. Someone had been here, using my bathroom, touching my things. I felt sick. I walked back into the bedroom and opened our closet. My clothes were all there, hanging in their usual spots. But when I looked down at the bottom of the closet, pushed against the back wall, I saw something that didn't belong. A black suitcase, medium-sized with silver handles. I'd never seen it before in my life. My sister's confession, I pulled the suitcase out of the closet and laid it on the bed. My hands trembled as I unzipped it. Inside were clothes, women's clothes, all in my size. Jeans, sweaters, a pair of black flats. There was also a makeup bag filled with products, and underneath everything, a wallet. I opened the wallet with shaking hands. Inside was a driver's license with my face on it. But the name was wrong. Emma Torres, my sister's name. But that didn't make sense. Emma lived in Tucson, 2 hours away. She worked as a waitress at some diner and barely kept in touch with me except for holidays and birthdays. We were twins, but we'd never been close. She always said I was the favorite, the one who got everything while she struggled. I felt dizzy. I sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at the license. Emma's name, my face, or was it her face? We were identical twins after all. We'd looked exactly alike as kids, but as we grew up, we'd made different choices. I kept my hair long. She cut hers short. I dressed conservatively. She wore edgier clothes. We didn't look that similar anymore, or so I'd thought. My phone buzzed in my pocket, making me jump. For a second, I thought it might be Mark, finally calling me back. But when I pulled it out, I saw it was just a spam call. I declined it and stared at the screen, trying to decide what to do. Then I called Emma. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Rachel, what's up?" Her voice sounded nervous, higher pitched than usual. "I need to talk to you," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. "It's important." Okay, what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Emma, I found something strange today. I checked my Ring camera and I saw someone who looked like me, walking into my house with Mark, but I was at work." There was silence on the other end, long, heavy silence that stretched on for what felt like forever. "Emma?" Still nothing. "Emma, say something." I heard her take a shaky breath. "Rachel, I don't know how to tell you this." My stomach dropped. "Tell me what?" "I've been seeing Mark." Her voice was barely a whisper. "For about 6 months now." The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the bed to steady myself. "What?" "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen, but you've been sleeping with my husband?" My voice rose, sharp and angry. "For 6 months? It just happened, okay? We ran into each other at a bar in Scottsdale, and we started talking, and—" "You're my sister!" I screamed into the phone. "How could you do this to me?" Emma's voice changed, becoming harder, colder. "You want to know how? Because I'm tired of it, Rachel. I'm tired of being the second-born twin, the one who always got less. You got into dental hygiene school. I dropped out of community college. You married a guy with a good job. I'm still waiting tables at 32 years old. You got everything, and I got nothing." I couldn't breathe. "So you decided to take my husband?" "I decided to take what should have been mine from the start." I hung up before she could say anything else. I threw my phone across the room, watching it bounce off the wall and land on the carpet. Then I collapsed onto the bed and screamed into my pillow until my throat was raw. The double life revealed, and I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma walking into my house, wearing my clothes, living my life. Mark came home around 7, acting like nothing was wrong. He kissed my forehead and asked about my day. I wanted to claw his eyes out, but I just smiled and said I wasn't feeling well. He slept beside me that night, snoring peacefully while I stared at the ceiling, planning my next move. The next morning, after Mark left for work, I went straight to my laptop. I knew Mark's email password. We'd always been open about that kind of thing, or so I thought. I logged into his account and started searching. What I found made me sick. There were hundreds of emails between Mark and Emma, going back 7 months. The early ones were flirty, talking about meeting up for drinks. Then they got more serious. "I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? This feels so right." By month 3, they were making plans. Detailed, horrible plans. Emma had gotten plastic surgery. I found the receipts attached to an email. Rhinoplasty to make her nose match mine exactly, subtle cheek implants, even a consultation about changing her hair color permanently. She was transforming herself into me, and Mark was paying for all of it. I kept reading, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. There were emails about my inheritance. My father had died 2 years ago and left me a substantial amount of money, almost $200,000. The will stated that if I died or disappeared, the money would go to Mark as my husband, not to Emma. That's what this was all about. Money. Mark couldn't divorce me without losing the inheritance. The will specifically stated that if we divorced, the money stayed with me. But if something happened to me, if I disappeared, Mark would get everything. And apparently he'd promised Emma they'd split it. I found an email from Mark to Emma dated 3 weeks ago. Once we have her signature on the transfer papers, we'll be set. She trusts me completely. She won't suspect anything until it's too late. Emma's response. What about after? We can't just let her walk around knowing everything. Mark. We'll figure it out. One problem at a time. I read that exchange 5 times, bile rising in my throat with each word. They were planning to make me disappear, Samois. My own sister and my husband were plotting to steal my inheritance and get rid of me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to drive to wherever they were and confront them both. But I didn't. Instead, I took screenshots of everything, every single email. I saved them to 3 different USB drives and uploaded them to a secure cloud account. Then I cleared my browser history and closed the laptop, making sure everything looked exactly as I'd found it. My hands didn't shake anymore. The fear and hurt had transformed into something else, something cold and hard and determined. If they wanted to play games, I would play too. But I would win, building my case. I knew I couldn't go to the police yet. What would I tell them? That my husband was having an affair with my twin sister? That wasn't a crime. That they were planning something bad? I had no proof they'd actually done anything illegal yet, just emails talking about plans. I needed more evidence, real, solid evidence that would put them both away. I spent the next 2 days planning. I called in sick to work, telling Dr. Patterson I had the flu. Then I went shopping. At an electronics store, I bought 4 tiny hidden cameras, the kind that looked like regular objects. One was disguised as a phone charger, another looked like a pen. The third was a small clock, and the fourth was hidden inside a picture frame. The salesman who helped me probably thought I was paranoid about burglars, but I didn't care what he thought. I installed the cameras throughout the house. The phone charger went in our bedroom, plugged into the outlet near Mark's side of the bed. The pen sat on his desk in the home office. The clock went on the living room shelf, and the picture frame, with a photo of Mark and me from our wedding, sat on the hallway table where it could see the front door. All 4 cameras connected to an app on my phone. I could watch and record everything, even when I wasn't home. Next, I went through Mark's office more carefully. I found bank statements he'd been hiding, showing large cash withdrawals over the past 6 months. $12,000. Gone. That was Emma's surgery money, I realized. I photographed every statement and added them to my evidence folder. I also found a second phone, hidden in the back of his desk drawer. It was cheap, probably a burner phone he used to text Emma without me knowing. I couldn't unlock it, but I photographed it and documented where I found it. Then I called Sarah, my friend from college who'd gone to law school and now practiced family law. We met for coffee at a shop across town where no one would recognize us. Rachel, are you okay? Sarah asked as soon as she saw me. You look terrible. I probably did. I hadn't slept properly in days and I'd barely eaten. But I didn't care about that now. I told her everything. The Ring camera video, Emma's confession, the emails, the inheritance plot. Sarah listened without interrupting, her face growing more serious with every detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "This is bad, Rachel. Really bad. But you're doing the right thing by gathering evidence. Don't confront them yet. We need to catch them in the act of something concrete. How? Keep watching, keep recording. The moment they do something criminal, forging your signature, for example, we'll have them." Sarah helped me set up a safety plan. I gave her copies of all my evidence. I also wrote out a detailed statement of everything that had happened and had it notarized. If anything happened to me, Sarah would know exactly what to do. That night, when Mark came home, I was in the kitchen making dinner like everything was normal. I smiled when he walked in. I asked about his day. I laughed at his jokes. And the whole time I was screaming inside, playing the perfect wife. The next few days were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal, that I didn't know my husband was planning to destroy me. Every morning, I kissed him goodbye like a loving wife. Every night, I made dinner and asked about his work. I played my role perfectly. But inside, I was dying. One night, we sat at the dinner table eating the chicken stir-fry I'd made. Mark was talking about something that happened at his construction site, some problem with a supplier. I nodded and smiled, making all the right responses. Then his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, and I saw his expression change, just for a second, a flash of something guilty before he controlled it. "Who is it?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "Just a work thing. I'll call them back later." But I'd already seen the name on the screen. Emma. I watched him text her back while he thought I was focused on my food. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. I couldn't see exactly what he was typing, but I could see the smile on his face, the same smile he used to give me. "How's your sister doing?" I asked as suddenly. Mark looked up, startled. "What?" "Emma. You two used to talk sometimes, didn't you? I was just wondering how she's been." He recovered quickly. "I don't know. I haven't talked to her in months. Why?" The lie came so easily to him. I wanted to throw my plate across the room, but instead I just shrugged. "No reason. I just haven't heard from her in a while. Thought maybe she'd mentioned something to you." "Nope. You know how she is, probably busy with work." I nodded and went back to my food. Under the table, my hands were clenched into fists. That night, Mark kissed my forehead before bed and told me he loved me. The same words he'd been telling Emma in all those emails. "I love you too," I said, and the words tasted like poison. He fell asleep quickly, his arm draped across my waist. I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling his weight against me. Every touch made my skin crawl, but I couldn't move away. I couldn't break character yet. Around midnight, I carefully slid out of bed and went to the guest room, claiming I had a headache and didn't want to disturb him. He just mumbled something and rolled over, already half asleep. In the guest room, I checked the camera feeds on my phone. The living room was empty, the office was dark, but the bedroom camera had captured Mark texting on his phone after he thought I'd fallen asleep. I couldn't see the screen, but I could see his face, guilty and excited at the same time. I wanted this to be over. I wanted to confront him, scream at him, make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd caused me. But Sarah's words echoed in my mind. "Don't confront them yet. We need to catch them in the act." So I waited. And I played the perfect wife, Emma's visit. 3 days later, the doorbell rang at 10 in the morning. I was home alone, doing laundry, when I heard it. Through the Ring camera app, I saw who it was before I even opened the door. Emma. My heart started racing. I hadn't seen her in person since our phone call, since she'd admitted to sleeping with my husband. Part of me wanted to ignore the doorbell, pretend I wasn't home, but I knew this was an opportunity. I needed to see what she would do, what she would say. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Emma stood on my porch, looking nervous. She'd changed her hair. It was longer now, darker, styled almost exactly like mine. The surgery had made her face look even more like mine than before. If I didn't know better, I might have mistaken her for my reflection. "Hi, Rachel," she said quietly. "Can we talk?" I wanted to slam the door in her face. Instead, I stepped aside and let her in. "Sure, come in." She walked into my living room, looking around like she was checking for something. Her eyes scanned the space, lingering on the picture frame I'd put on the hallway table, the one with the hidden camera inside it. "You look worried," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Is everything okay?" Emma turned to face me. "I've been thinking about our conversation the other day. I feel terrible about everything." "Do you?" I didn't try to hide the bitterness in my voice. "I do. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I felt like I've been living in your shadow my whole life, and when Mark and I started talking, it felt like finally something was going right for me." I wanted to laugh. She was trying to make me feel sorry for her. "So you decided to steal my husband." "It wasn't like that. We just connected and—" "Save it, Emma. I don't want to hear your excuses." I walked into the kitchen and she followed me. I made coffee, more for something to do with my hands than because I wanted any. Emma sat at my kitchen table, looking around like she was memorizing the space. That's when I noticed it, the necklace around her neck. It was my necklace. The one Mom had given me for my 30th birthday 2 years ago, a delicate silver chain with a small sapphire pendant. Mom had saved up for months to buy it, and she'd given it to me with tears in her eyes, saying she was proud of the woman I'd become. And now Emma was wearing it. "Where did you get that necklace?" I asked, my voice sharp. Emma's hand flew to her throat, touching the pendant. Her face went pale. "This? I bought it at a store a few weeks ago." "Really? Which store?" "I don't remember. Some jewelry place at the mall." I walked closer to her, staring at the necklace. "That's funny, because that looks exactly like the necklace Mom gave me, the one I kept in my jewelry box in my bedroom." Emma started to stammer. "It's not. I mean, lots of necklaces look similar. This isn't yours." "Show me the clasp." "What?" "Show me the clasp. My necklace has a tiny scratch on the clasp from when I dropped it last year." Emma's face went white. She touched the necklace again, her fingers trembling. "I should go." "Yeah," I said coldly. I think you should." She practically ran out of the house. I watched through the window as she got into her car and drove away, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. As soon as she was gone, I checked my bedroom. My jewelry box was exactly where I'd left it, but the necklace was gone. She'd taken it, probably during one of her visits here with Mark when she was pretending to be me. I sat down on my bed and let myself cry for the first time in days. Not because I was sad, but because I was so angry I didn't know what else to do. The inheritance papers. 2 days after Emma's visit, I found what I'd been looking for. I came home from work early again, telling Dr. Patterson I had a dentist appointment of my own. Mark wouldn't be home for another 3 hours, which gave me plenty of time to search. I went straight to his office. I'd already been through his desk, but this time I looked more carefully. I checked every drawer, every file folder, every stack of papers. And finally, in the bottom drawer, hidden under some old tax returns, I found them. Legal documents, transfer papers for my father's inheritance. My hands shook as I read through them. The papers would transfer the full amount, $198,000, from my account to a joint account in both Mark's and Emma's names. All they needed was my signature at the bottom. But that wasn't all. Attached to the transfer papers were practice sheets, pages and pages of someone practicing my signature. Emma had been copying my handwriting over and over, trying to perfect it. Some of the attempts were pretty good. A few looked almost exactly like my real signature. They were going to forge my name. I felt cold all over. This was it, the smoking gun I needed. Forgery was a crime. Theft was a crime. With these documents, I could finally go to the police. But as I kept reading, I found something even worse. There was a third document hidden at the very bottom of the stack. It was a life insurance policy. On me. Mark had taken out a $500,000 policy on my life 6 months ago. I'd never signed anything, which meant he'd forged that signature too. The pieces clicked into place. They weren't just planning to steal my inheritance, they were planning to kill me. I sat at Mark's desk, staring at those papers, feeling nothing but cold determination. I pulled out my phone and photographed every single page. The transfer documents, the signature practice sheets, the life insurance policy, everything. Then I called Sarah. "I found it," I said when she answered. "The evidence we need." "Tell me." I explained everything, the forged papers, the life insurance policy, all of it. Sarah was quiet for a long moment after I finished. "Rachel, this is serious. We need to go to the police now." "Not yet. I want them to actually try it. I want to catch them in the act so there's no way they can talk their way out of it." "That's dangerous." "I don't care. I want them to pay for what they've done." Sarah sighed. "Okay, but we do this carefully. And I'm going to have police on standby, just in case." After I hung up with Sarah, I carefully put all the documents back exactly where I'd found them. Then I sent copies of all the photos to 3 different email accounts, just like I'd done with the earlier evidence. My hands didn't shake anymore as I worked. The fear was gone, replaced by something harder and colder. I knew exactly what I needed to do. When Mark came home that night, I was making dinner like always. He kissed my cheek and asked what smelled good. "Lasagna," I said with a smile. "Your favorite." And the whole time, I was planning his downfall, the trap. I waited 1 more week before making my move. During that time, I watched Mark and Emma through my hidden cameras. I recorded their phone calls, their text messages, their secret meetings when they thought I was at work. I learned their plan down to every detail. They were going to take me to Dad's grave on Sunday, tomorrow. It was the 2-year anniversary of his death, and they'd suggested we all go together to pay our respects. Emma would be there too, because family should be together. What they didn't know was that I'd heard them planning it. The cemetery was remote, surrounded by desert. No witnesses, no cameras. They were going to force me to sign the papers there, and if I refused, they'd kill me and forge my signature anyway. Then they'd make it look like an accident, maybe a fall, maybe something else. They hadn't decided on the details yet, but I'd decided on mine. Saturday night, Sarah came over while Mark was out meeting Emma. She brought a police detective named Rodriguez with her. "Tell me everything," Detective Rodriguez said. I showed him all my evidence, the emails, the videos, the forged documents, the life insurance policy. I explained the whole plan from start to finish. Detective Rodriguez was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then he said, "This is one of the most twisted things I've ever seen. Your own sister and your husband. Can you help me?" "Absolutely. But we need to catch them in the act. Tomorrow, when they take you to the cemetery, I'll have officers waiting nearby. Sarah got you a wire?" Sarah held up a small device. "State of the art. It'll record everything they say." She helped me put it on, showing me how to activate it. The wire was tiny, hidden under my shirt where no one would see it. "Remember," Detective Rodriguez said, "you need to get them to say something incriminating, something that proves intent. Can you do that?" I thought about everything they'd done to me, the lies, the betrayal, the plan to kill me. Yes, I can do it. Sunday morning came. Mark woke me up with coffee in bed, acting like the perfect husband. "Ready to go see your dad?" he asked softly. "Yeah, I think it'll be good to visit him. Emma's meeting us there. I thought it would be nice for the 3 of us to go together." I smiled at him. "That's sweet. Family should stick together." If he heard the bitterness in my voice, he didn't show it. We drove to the cemetery in Mark's truck. It took 45 minutes to get there, winding through the desert on increasingly empty roads. The cemetery was old and small, sitting on a hillside surrounded by saguaro cacti and scrub brush. Dad's grave was near the back, far from the entrance. Emma was already there when we arrived, standing by Dad's headstone. She'd cut her hair shorter again, and she wasn't wearing the necklace. She looked nervous, her hands fidgeting with her car keys. "Hey," she said quietly as we walked up. "Hey," I replied. The 3 of us stood there for a moment, looking at Dad's grave. Robert Torres, beloved father, 1958-2023. He would have been disgusted if he knew what his daughters and son-in-law were doing. "Rachel," Mark said suddenly, "we need to talk to you about something." "What?" He pulled the papers out of his jacket pocket, the transfer documents. "We think it's time to move your inheritance into a different account, somewhere safer." I looked at him, then at Emma. "Safer? It's already in a secure account." "Not secure enough," Emma said. Her voice was shaking. "Just sign the papers, Rachel." "Why would I do that?" Mark's expression changed. The fake kindness disappeared, replaced by something cold. "Because you don't have a choice." That's when I saw the gun, Justice and Goodbye. Mark pulled the gun from his waistband and pointed it at me. It was small and black, probably something he'd bought illegally. My heart started racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. The wire under my shirt was recording everything. "Sign the papers," Mark said again. Emma stood beside him, her face pale. She looked scared, but she didn't try to stop him. "You're really going to do this?" I asked. "You're going to kill me for money?" "We don't want to kill you," Emma said quickly. "Just sign the papers and everything will be fine." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think I'm stupid? I found the life insurance policy, Mark. $500,000. You're planning to kill me no matter what I do." Mark's face darkened. "How did you?" "I know everything. The emails, the surgery, the forged signatures, all of it." Emma took a step back. "Rachel, Shut up, Emma." Mark kept the gun pointed at me. "It doesn't matter what she knows. She's going to sign these papers, and then we're going to take care of this." "Take care of it?" I pushed, needing him to say the words clearly for the recording. "You mean kill me?" "If that's what it takes," Mark said coldly. "We've come too far to back out now. That money should have been mine anyway. You didn't do anything to deserve it." "It was my father's money." "And you're his spoiled daughter who got everything while the rest of us got nothing." He gestured at Emma with his free hand. Your sister understands. She knows what it's like to be second best. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted what you had. So you decided to take it, I said. My husband, my life, my money. Yes, Emma shouted suddenly. Yes, I did, because I deserved it more than you. I always have. Mark took a step toward me, the gun steady in his hand. Last chance, Rachel. Sign the papers. That's when I heard it, the sound of car engines approaching. Multiple vehicles, getting closer. Mark heard it too. His eyes widened. What did you do? I set a trap, I said calmly. And you both walked right into it. Police cars appeared from behind the cemetery buildings, sirens blaring. 4 of them, surrounding us. Officers jumped out with their weapons drawn. Drop the gun, Detective Rodriguez shouted. Drop it now! Mark looked around wildly, realizing he was surrounded. For a second, I thought he might try to shoot me anyway, but then he saw all the police officers, saw there was no way out, and his hand started shaking. Drop the gun, Rodriguez shouted again. The gun clattered to the ground. Mark put his hands up, his face crumbling. This wasn't supposed to happen. Emma tried to run. She turned and sprinted toward her car, but 2 officers were already there. They grabbed her before she made it 5 feet. She screamed and struggled, but it was over. I watched them both get handcuffed, my husband and my sister, the 2 people I'd loved most in the world. Emma was crying, saying over and over that she was sorry. Mark just looked angry, glaring at me like this was somehow my fault. Detective Rodriguez walked over to me. You okay? I nodded, even though I wasn't sure if that was true. I got everything, right, on the recording? Every word. They confessed to everything. The plan to forge your signature, the life insurance scheme, the intent to kill you. They're done. I watched as the officers put Mark and Emma in separate police cars. Mark was yelling something I couldn't hear. Emma had her face in her hands. Thank you, I said to Rodriguez. You did this yourself. That took a lot of courage. But I didn't feel courageous. I felt empty. As the police cars drove away with my sister and husband inside, I stood there by my father's grave, alone. The desert wind blew across the hillside, rustling the dry grass. In the distance, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky orange and purple. I knelt down and touched Dad's headstone. I'm sorry you had to see this, I whispered. I'm sorry your family fell apart. I stayed there for a long time, crying, not for Mark or Emma, but for what we'd all lost, for the trust that could never be rebuilt, for the sister I'd grown up with, who'd let jealousy turn her into someone I didn't recognize, for the marriage I'd thought was real, but had been a lie for longer than I knew. When I finally stood up and walked back to my car, the sun had almost set. Sarah was waiting for me in the parking lot, leaning against her car. You ready to go? She asked gently. I nodded. Yeah, I'm ready. She drove me home, to the house that was now just mine. Mark's things were still there, scattered throughout the rooms like he'd be coming back any minute. But he wouldn't. Not for a long time. The district attorney had already told me they'd be charging both Mark and Emma with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and a list of other crimes I couldn't keep track of. That night, I sat alone in my living room, thinking about everything that had happened. My phone buzzed with messages from coworkers and friends who'd heard the news. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything. But what I needed, no one could give me back. I needed my sister to have been the person I thought she was. I needed my marriage to have been real. I needed the last 7 months to have been different. Instead, I had the truth, and the truth was ugly and painful and lonely, but it was mine. Over the next few weeks, I slowly started rebuilding my life. I went back to work, where Dr. Patterson and the other hygienists were supportive and kind. I changed the locks on my house and got rid of everything that reminded me of Mark. I donated his clothes, threw away the photos, removed every trace of him from my life. The hardest part was accepting what Emma had done. We'd shared a womb, shared our childhood, shared everything. And she'd hated me for it. She'd looked at my life and seen only what she didn't have, instead of seeing all the things we'd shared. My mother called one night crying. She'd heard about the arrest and couldn't believe what Emma had done. I failed somewhere, she kept saying. I must have failed you both. No, Mom, I told her. You didn't fail. Emma made her choices and I made mine. That's not on you. But I could hear in her voice that she didn't believe me. She blamed herself for the way things had turned out, for the daughter who'd let jealousy poison her heart. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom and watched my sister and my husband get sentenced. Emma got 12 years. Mark got 15. The judge said their crime was particularly heinous because of the breach of trust, family betraying family, a husband betraying his wife. Emma looked at me once across the courtroom. Her eyes were red from crying, and she mouthed the words, "I'm sorry," but I didn't respond. I just looked away. After the sentencing, I walked out of the courthouse into the bright Phoenix sunshine. Sarah was beside me, offering to buy me lunch, but I shook my head. "I need to be alone for a while," I said. I drove to the cemetery, back to Dad's grave. I'd been there several times since that awful day, finding something peaceful about the quiet hillside. I sat down on the grass beside his headstone and looked out at the desert. "I survived," I said to him. "I know you'd want to know that. I survived, and I'm going to be okay." The wind rustled through the brush, and somewhere in the distance, a bird called out. Life was continuing the way it always did. Whether we were ready or not, I thought about everything I'd learned, about trust, about family, about the people we think we know. I'd learned that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and that love can be twisted into something ugly if we let jealousy take root. But I'd also learned that I was stronger than I thought, that I could face the worst betrayal and come out the other side, that I could stand up for myself when everything was falling apart. As I sat there by Dad's grave, watching the sun move across the sky, I felt something shift inside me. The anger was still there, and the hurt. But underneath it all was something new, a quiet determination to build a life that was truly mine. Not the life Emma had wanted to steal, not the life Mark had pretended to share with me, but my own life, built on truth instead of lies. I stood up and brushed the dirt from my jeans. "Goodbye, my Dad," I said softly. "I'll come back soon." As I walked back to my car, I pulled out my phone and texted Dr. Patterson. "I'm ready to come back full-time. Thank you for being patient with me." His response came immediately. "Welcome back, Rachel. We've missed you." I smiled, the first real smile I'd felt in months. Life wasn't perfect, and it probably never would be. The scars from Emma and Mark's betrayal would always be there, reminders of what I'd survived. But I was still here, still standing, still moving forward, and that was enough. That night, I made dinner for myself in my quiet house. I ate slowly, savoring each bite, thinking about the future instead of the past. There would be hard days ahead. Grief and anger don't disappear overnight. But there would also be good days. Days where I laughed with friends. Days where I found joy in small things. Days where I remembered that I was more than what had happened to me. I'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that the people closest to us can hurt us the most, but that doesn't mean we should stop trusting altogether. It means we should be wiser about who we trust, and stronger when that trust is broken. Emma had wanted to live my life because she thought it was better than hers, but she'd never understood that life isn't about comparing ourselves to others. It's about building something authentic, something real, and that's exactly what I was going to do. As I washed the dinner dishes, I looked out the kitchen window at the desert landscape beyond my backyard. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. It was beautiful, the same view I'd looked at 1,000 times before, but somehow different now. I was different now. And for the first time since that terrible day when I'd watched the Ring camera footage, I felt something like hope. The road ahead would be long. There would be therapy sessions and legal paperwork and lonely nights. There would be moments when I'd miss the life I thought I had, even though it was built on lies. But there would also be freedom. Freedom from people who'd pretended to love me while planning my destruction. Freedom to become whoever I wanted to be, without someone plotting to take it away. I dried the last dish and put it away, then walked through my house, turning off lights. In the bedroom, my bedroom now, not ours, I changed into comfortable pajamas and climbed into bed with a book I'd been meaning to read. Outside, the desert night settled in, quiet and vast, and inside, I finally felt at peace, and not because everything was fixed, not because the hurt was gone, but because I knew deep in my bones that I would survive this. I would heal, and someday, I would even thrive. Emma and Mark had tried to take everything from me, but they'd failed, because the one thing they couldn't steal, no matter how hard they tried, was who I was at my core. And I was stronger than either of them had ever imagined.